Hello everyone, it's Mari here for Honeybee Stamps. I'm going to be creating this card for you today. I'm starting off the process here using the Fancy Fall layering frame dies. I'm going to use this frame from that set here and some of the gorgeous paper from the Homestead Harvest paper pad to die cut out a piece for the front of my card today. I just really love the distress look of this sort of like denim looking paper. I just love that, and it was definitely the inspiration for creating my color scheme today. So here you can see how that looks when it's all die cut out using that frame die and how nicely that's going to look on my white top folding card base. Now there's that Homestead Harvest paper pad. I just love that paper pad so much. And I'm also going to be using this paper from that as well. It kind of almost looks like burlap. And I'm going to use the oval die from the Fancy Fall layering frame die set to cut out the focal point area for my card. So I'm just going to go ahead and get that tape down onto the paper and trim around it. I'll take that through my die cutting machine, and that's going to die cut out this really beautiful oval to overlay on top of that navy paper. So you can just see how gorgeous that's going to be. It's a really pretty start to this lovely card. And next I'm going to start to die cut out all of the other different details. Now this is the Apple Barrel Lovely Layers die set, and I'm going to be cutting out the barrel from some teal cardstock from my stash. So I'm just going to go ahead, like I said, and with my other pieces here, just cut them out, die cut them out here just by trimming them out, trimming the most of that paper off with my scissors and then running those through my die cutting machine. You can just see all of that embossed detail on that piece when it comes through the machine. I also really like to use my Spellbinders magnet in my space when I'm using a whole bunch of small dies. I'll just keep that off to the side and I'll continue to put the small dies on that magnet while I'm working. I did cut the strap for the barrel out of some craft cardstock. Now I'm going to be die cutting out the Lovely Layers mushroom dies from some white cardstock. I'll run those through my die cutting machine, and here you can just see how sweet these are when they're all layered up. I am going to ink blend on those in a little bit, but I want to do more of my die cutting. I'm going to be using the Lovely Layers Autumn Bouquet die set to create some more foliage for my project here. And so I'm die cutting these to really pretty leafy branches from some gold cardstock from my stash. That's actually some Spellbinders brushed gold cardstock. And I'm die cutting the oak branch from some white cardstock. So you can just see all of the beautiful details that you get when you die cut those out. Now I'm going to start to ink blend the different pieces that I've die cut here. I'm going to start with the mushrooms and some antique linen. I'll just go ahead and brush on a little bit of that antique linen on the bases of all of these different mushrooms as the first layer of color for those pieces. When I'm done with the antique linen, I'm going to go in with some gathered twigs and add a little bit of brown to each one of the different mushroom pieces, just to create that depth and dimension, and just trying to add it to sort of like one side of the mushroom. Now, believe it or not, I am going in with some Uncharted Mariner because I do want to create a little bit of blue on the different pieces, which I'm hoping is kind of going to look like a reflection from the blues that are on the card, the pattern or the pattern paper and cardstock that I've chosen. So I just wanted to add a little bit of that Uncharted Mariner. Now I'm going to go in with a little bit of ground espresso and darken up the different brown areas as well over top of the antique linen and the gathered twigs. And I'm really happy with how those turned out. I'm going to go ahead and glue these pieces together. So this mushroom here only has two pieces to it. That mushroom cap just fits perfectly over top of that mushroom. And then this mushroom here has three pieces. So there's the base, and then this piece here that adds some detail to the stem of the mushroom, and then this piece which adds some detail to the top of the mushroom. So in true Lovely Layers style from Honeybee Stamps, you can just see how gorgeous these mushrooms layer up to create these really gorgeous different pieces for your projects. So this last mushroom here does have three pieces as well. The base layer, and then this piece here that adds some detail to the larger mushroom over to this, or the smaller mushroom, I should say, to the right. And then this last piece here, which is going to add some detail to the larger mushroom on the left. Now that I've got those all layered together, going to set those aside and go on to the next die cut piece here to add the details to that. So this is I believe this is a cotton stem, and these sweet little cotton puffs just layer beautifully behind the stem. So you can see where the puff has the etched lines is exactly where the stem is going to line up with that cotton puff. And so I'm just adding the liquid adhesive onto the little cotton puff there in white and adding it onto the stem. And I did add a little bit of antique linen onto these white cardstock pieces for the cotton, just to create a little bit of depth. And you can just see how gorgeous these stems are when they're all finished up. So once I've got that done, I'm going to start working on the oak branch. Now this is a 2-piece lovely layers branch. So that smaller branch on the left on the right is going to layer over top of the one on the left. And I'm starting off with some antique linen and some gathered twigs. And now I'll just go in with some ground espresso to darken up the brown areas. And again, I'm just trying to create a little bit of depth and dimension with the color with these different inks, with these different ink colors I'm using here. And then lastly, I'll go in again with the Uncharted Mariner just to add that little bit of touch of blue. And when I'm finished with that, I'll go ahead and adhere, that's the branch on the right, to the center of that branch, and I'll set that aside. I'm going to add a little bit of the Uncharted Mariner to the edges of the apple barrel. And I'm also going to add a little bit of black soot to the edges as well. I'm just showing you how nice that looks when there's ink on there. And I've decided that I just want to darken up the very, very edge with some black soot. So I'm just going to do that quickly here. And I really love how that looks when it's all finished. It just kind of draws the attention to the edges of that barrel. Now I'm going to start to assemble my project here. I'm going to start off by adding this really pretty blue paper to my card base, just with my liquid adhesive. And I'm just going to lay this piece flat onto the card base. So I'll just give that a really good press, especially on the edges of the paper to make sure that's adhered. I have added some foam adhesive onto the oval. I'm going to add a little bit of liquid adhesive onto the back of that just to allow me to wiggle this into place when I'm putting it onto my card. So I'm going to basically center this into the etched area that is the oval. So when you die cut that base rectangle there, it does create a scored line to show you where to put the oval, which is genius. I love that. And I'm going to add the top layer of the barrel with a little bit of thin adhesive. These little adhesive squares I'm using here are quite thin. So it's going to give it a little bit of dimension, but not too much. And that allows me to stuff the barrel with the different stems that I'm going to put in there, because I only put that foam adhesive around the edges when I put that barrel together. Now I'm adding the barrel strap onto the center, and I'll just give that a really good press so that that adheres nicely. And when I'm done with that, I'm ready to add the little details onto my oak branch here. The little acorns have these tiny little dark brown tips or tops to the little acorns. I've added a little bit of adhesive onto the ends there so that I could add those on. Now I'm going to cut this in half because I do want to have a little bit of these oak branches kind of in a couple of different places. And now you can just see I'm stuffing that barrel with the different stems and mushrooms to create a little autumn bouquet in the barrel. I'm adding a little bit of foam adhesive onto the backs of some of these different pieces to adhere them onto the oval. And in that way, just create a little bit of depth and dimension. I did add a little bit of liquid adhesive onto some of the pieces as well to adhere them into place. And some, of course, will get a little bit of foam adhesive as well. Mostly the topmost pieces will get the foam adhesive, just to give that little bit of bump up on those top pieces of the stems. And then that little mushroom I thought would look really cute over to the right. And then I decided I wanted to die cut a couple of the apple blossoms from the Apple Barrel Lovely Layer set. So you'll see me working with those in a minute. Now these two little mushrooms I did want to put outside of the barrel on the left side. just to add a little bit of detail to the outside of the barrel as well. And they just fit perfectly layered over there to the left. If I said right before, I meant left. So just on the bottom left of that barrel, we've got those two sweet little mushrooms. And now I'm going to add a couple of the apple blossoms. So I cut the apple blossoms just from some white cardstock, and I cut the centers again from that brushed gold Spellbinders cardstock. And I've just added a little bit of liquid adhesive to the centers of those apple blossoms, and then I'll just pick up, I added, yes, just a little bit of liquid adhesive to the centers there, and now I'm just adding those little gold centers to the apple blossoms, and I just think these are so sweet. I just wanted a little something for the front of the barrel, just to kind of add a little bit of something interesting there, other than just having the bottoms of the stems there. So I'm going to go ahead and put some of that thin foam adhesive onto the back of this flower, and I'll add that onto the inside of the barrel, just kind of overlapping some of the stems and that little mushroom. I just felt like it really finished that area off nicely. And then I'm going to add that other little apple blossom to the little cluster of mushrooms in the bottom left area. So I just really love the teal and the gold and the browns here for the color scheme for this project, which I said was completely inspired by the Homestead Harvest paper pad. The Honeybee Stamps paper pads are just so good. If you haven't jumped down that rabbit hole yet, I highly recommend them. I love the pattern papers so much. They're just always so beautiful. Now I'm going to take a little bit of gold liquid watercolor and just splatter that onto my project for that last little bit of finishing touch. I did use the Heartfelt Hello sentiment set to stamp a sentiment on the inside of my card in black. I will show you that here in a second, but I'm just trying to get a really fine splatter of gold here. I just thought that would look really pretty and finish the card off so nicely. So there you can see the card is all finished. Thank you so much for joining me today, friends. All of the different products that I've used today are linked in the description box below. Don't forget to subscribe and like this video. I would really appreciate it. Have an amazing day, friends, and I'll see you next Friday. Take care. Bye-bye.